Tyson's talked about, Francis owes me for that fight in terms of putting his name round with Anthony Joshua. Do you think that performance really
I don't know,
was...
really. I mean, I think it's disingenuous with some people the way they talk about Ngannou. They talk about like he's a YouTuber or he's a influencer who's doing one of these fights that they're doing these days. The man is is a professional fighter. UFC, but he was the lineal champion, undefeated lineal champion, and I always knew he would be competitive. I always felt that he would give anybody a problem for a few rounds. Question marks were, did he have stamina? We know that inside these guys, MMA fighters normally stand square on. We know inside that they're very good at, they get a hold of each other, they pull each other about. So you're not going to mess him about inside. And he's a strong man. He's a very big man. But I felt that Tyson, maybe for a few rounds it'd be difficult, but then Tyson's superior boxing skills would prevail, and he would stop him. That was my view. What shocked me, as soon as that bell went, the way he shaped up. He actually shaped up like a fighter, and he was switch hitting. He was going from southpaw to orthodox. He'd done that on quite a few occasions, and he obviously caught Tyson with a very, very good shot. That hook he caught him with, he knocked Tyson down. He got up, and Tyson then had to change what he was doing, change his plan, which he did do. And also Tyson did have a bad night. I don't think he was himself. He had a bad night, but you can't take away that Ngannou came out and actually showed that he can box. And looking at that, I can think of a couple of fighters in the top 10 that I think he would give a lot of problems to. As with AJ, AJ, he's coming off of a good win last time. He sort of really got himself back into a position where people were saying that he would probably give the winner of Tyson and Usyk a good fight. He looks very good. But this is going to be a bit of an intriguing fight for me for him, because he can punch Ngannou. If he catches Joshua, is he going to take Joshua out? How's Joshua going to respond to that? Is he going to go on his back foot? He can't afford to go on his back foot against him anyway. He's got to put Ngannou on his back foot. Joshua's got a good jab. If he does the basic stuff, left hand, right, and straight rights, he could probably do that and win the fight that way. But has he got the discipline to do it? I don't know. And you look at Joshua, if I was preparing Ngannou, like they prepared him well for Tyson, if I was preparing him, I would think to myself, he does have a couple of chinks in his armour. We've seen him, been on the other side of the decision on a couple of occasions. Now, does he feel he can exploit that, Ngannou? He's a very confident guy, and he thinks he can. He says he's not looking for the knockout, and I believe that. I think he's looking to go out and box him, and if a knockout opportunity happens, then he'll look to take it. But what is really the most intriguing thing about this fight for me is, can Ngannou get any better from the performance that he had against Tyson? What's he learned from that? Can he come back? Can he do anything different? And that's going to be the interesting fact about it. For me, the first one that lands the big shot, that will determine how the fight goes. Because I think if Ngannou hurts AJ, if he does hurt him, then that will be it will. I think the fight will go in his way. I don't mean knock him out. I mean hurt him.
That's the thing. Does Joshua have the advantage because he can now watch 10 rounds? Does Ngannou have the advantage because he's done 10 rounds?
Yeah. Well, that's it. Joshua's got what Tyson didn't have. There was no footage of him boxing, and we didn't expect that. And Tyson had an off night. I mean, there's no, for me, there's no doubt about it. However, Ngannou is a fighting man, and that's what I keep emphasising to people. He's not one of these guys who suddenly decides he wants to be a boxer. He's been doing it his whole life. He's been fighting since the day he's been born. From Africa, working in copper mines at the age of 9, or coal mines, wherever it was, at the age of 9. Making his way across continents to get himself a better life. He's fought all the way. sleeping on the street, sleeping rough. You know, he has got a real rugged, tough background. And can he impose himself on AJ in that ring? If he imposes himself on him, he'll give him problems. And he is a big man. He's a big man.
I wanted to ask you about Saudi Arabia in general and how this has happened over the last sort of couple of years. I think I'm right in saying that Joshua Ruiz was sort of the first time we saw big time boxing here. When did you first feel it was something that was, you know, going to take off?
Well, I mean, you know, what happened is that Prince Khalid at the time was putting a few shows on, and he did those with AJ and with Matchroom, and they you know, it worked out very well for everybody concerned. And they made money and they put on some good fights. But it's gone to another level now since Sella, along with His Excellency Turki Al Sheikh, since he's got involved, and the Riyadh season, and putting his fights on in the Riyadh season, it's taken it to another level. I mean, we're seeing not just fights, we're seeing events. Around a main event, they're putting fabulous undercards on. I mean, most of them will top a normal bill in their own right. And it's happening on a regular basis. I mean, this fight on Friday night is the first of 3 in the next 5 months. We've got May the 18th, we've got the biggest fight of the 21st century, the unification heavyweight fight between Tyson Fury and Alexander Usyk. Fight everybody's waiting for. That's on with a fabulous undercard. And then June the 1st, we've got yet another unification match between Bebatiev and Bivol, with the 5 against 5, Matchroom's 5 fighters against our 5 fighters, which again will be a phenomenal event. And that's just the first half of the year. So this is a destination. This has become a little bit like Vegas on speed. That's what it is. And you know, great events, and we're delighted to be part of it, working with everybody. It's got a lot of promoters working together. I mean, some of these shows are in conjunction with other promoters. This all comes under the auspices of His Excellency, who's a major boxing fan and a massive supporter of the sport, and he's determined to make this a destination to go to. The Riyadh season is a cultural event, multicultural event. It goes across the board of everything. It's not just, I mean, they've got snooker on this week, they've had paddle tennis, football, everything's going on here, plus the entertainment side. You've got all genres of music, from hip hop to, you know, classical, opera, all sorts of things going on here, exhibitions, car shows. It's become part of a season and making Riyadh a destination to go to. And that's what it's about. That's what they're doing here. They're building this this is going to be a destination you need to be at and need to go to see some of the biggest events in the world. And it's certainly happening in boxing. They're taking it over.
Maybe these fights would have happened anyway, but what does it say about boxing in general that it needed Saudi to come in and they would have, most of them probably would have happened for far less money than the guys are getting, because obviously you're running these shows elsewhere, then you'd be doing them working within a budget. What we're doing here, there's a budget for the Riyadh season, so that as a result of that, it enables the boxers to earn more money. But you wouldn't have these cards elsewhere, because they're just loaded up with great fights. I mean, on Friday night we've got a fabulous heavyweight fight for the interim WBO heavyweight title between Zhang and Joe Parker. That's a cracking fight, and the winner of that will be the WBO's mandatory for the winner of the fight on the 18th. So it's each fight has a story leading on to another fight down the road. And Nick, Britain's Nick Ball in with Vargas, who's the best, I think, it's the #1 featherweight in the world. He's fighting him. Tough fight, and a great undercard. Great fights on the undercard. So it's a really, you wouldn't be getting that level of, or that quality of fights on an undercard, because you just couldn't afford it. But it's happening. So what happens if they turn the taps off and say, actually?
Well, then it go back to how it was.
The fighters get a taste for it, don't they? The money.
Well, yeah, the footballers. It's not the fighters. It's the golfers get a taste for it. The
the footballers get a taste for it. The paddle tennis players get a taste of it. Everybody gets a taste for it. You know, you have to attract the acts. If it's Vegas, how comes all the big fights went to Vegas? They went to Vegas because the casinos put up money to draw the punters in to host the event and get the publicity for their venue around the world. And that's what's happening here, except it's not a casino, and they can do it on a bigger scale. That's what it was. I mean, there was nothing unusual for boxers to win a title in Britain and then maybe defend it once or twice and then go off to the States, whether it be New York or then it became Vegas, and that's where they, you know, made their money. That's where they made their big money. It won't stop big fights happening in the UK or in other places in the world. I mean, boxing's on a real high around the world at the moment, but this has become a massive destination for the big fights, and I think it will. I think because of the commitment of His Excellency and his team, and I think the Riyadh season, and in general the Saudi itself, it will be a continuous story.
Last question. I think Tyson's due in this week. Ideally, I guess for you, he'd be here as the undisputed champion, of course. Is his rematch clause with Usyk, is that, you know, cast iron? Is there a chance that
there is a rematch clause, and for Tyson, you talked about for Tyson.
Yes.
Yeah, there's a rematch clause for Tyson, and that's there. So, but it's no point even going down that road for anybody at the moment. Everybody's speculating what's going to happen until Tyson fights Usyk, and how that fight pans out. I think it'd be a great fight, but if it's a stinker, you know, who knows? But I believe it will be a really good quality fight, and then after that we'll see how the dust settles. In the meantime, all these guys in heavyweight division are all jockeying for position and get themselves in a position for fighting the winner or fighting for the belts if any of them become vacant for the next round. So it is exciting times, certainly for the heavyweight division at the moment.